Okay, we are going to do something slightly different, but no less serious than what we've been doing throughout the week. I don't want us to think it's just something, just because it's about health, it is any less serious than what we've been studying. And before I continue, before I get any further, we are going to first of all pray, and then I will introduce what we are doing. And I want us to truly consider and be willing also, just as much as you want to be changed spiritually, so we can be made more ready for the end time. I want us to consider what we will do even now in a few moments, just as serious a part to help us to be ready for the end time as well. Let us pray. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. We are extremely grateful to you for your loving presence with us here and now. We are thankful that you're such a God who has been so good to us. And you've made us a complete person, complete being. And you didn't just make us that way, but you've also shown us how to so take care of ourselves that we can be fully like you when the work of sanctification is finished. And so at this time we have come and we want to study a bit about the physical being, our health, physical health. We need your Holy Spirit just as much now as with the other messages. And so we invite your presence to be with all of us as we present this important part of the gospel. Grant that those presenting, those listening, all of us will be convicted to make changes where necessary so you can ready us for the end time for Jesus' sake. Amen. Okay, just to reinforce in your minds the fact that this is indeed just as serious a message, let me just give you a couple quotations. Then I'm going to call, I'm not doing everything myself. There's just a little team of us who will be presenting various aspects. And I want your full attention. From Counsels on Diets and Foods, page 17, we are told, it is truly a sin to violate the laws of our being as it is to break the 10 Commandments. So sometimes we consider the 10 Commandments, but the laws of our being, we are not quite so serious about. Remember, it is just as much a sin. So when you have been enlightened about something to do with your physical being, it is just as much a sin to disobey that as it is the 10 Commandments. And secondly, before I call on Sister Kelita, listen, we've been talking about praying for the Holy Spirit this week. Listen to this quotation. Same Counsels on Diets and Foods, page 57. The Spirit of God cannot come to our help and assist us in perfecting Christian characters while we are indulging our appetites to the injury of health and while the pride of life controls. So yes, we are to pray for God's Spirit, but at the same time, if we know various rules in connection with our physical health, the Spirit is not going to help us if we are on the one hand talking one thing and on the other hand indulging our appetites. And this aspect of appetite is so important that Christ had to spend 40 whole days fasting to make sure he gained full victory over it before he entered his ministry. So I want us all to be serious, to be considerate of what we see, hear, and learn this afternoon, and to be also willing to make the necessary changes by the strength of God. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This evening, I am going to focus on something that's pretty basic that most of us should already know and should master, but there are a lot of hidden and silent killers that we're still consuming and we take for granted because we think they're not that big of a deal. We focus a lot on, not eating meat and all that stuff. But instead, I want to focus on things that we may not point our fingers at as easily, but hopefully after this evening, you realize that we really don't have to consume them as much because there are a lot of easy fixes and a lot of ways that we can substitute more healthy options and options that are also budget friendly, inexpensive. They don't take a lot of time, as most people say. So hopefully this will be helpful to a lot of us here in the congregation who might still be struggling with some of these things. So the first thing is that we're making some excuses. When I talk to most people, they say that they can't eat vegan because it's too expensive, so they can't afford to buy foods to prepare vegan meals, or they don't have time, it doesn't taste good. So I want to address those three main things this evening. So the first thing is taste. So I hear a lot that vegan food is bland. There's no taste to it. And one of the main reasons is because we have already adulterated our taste buds. So our taste buds, they already love a lot of sugar. They love a lot of salt. And when you taste something the way it's supposed to taste, it obviously does not taste good. So one of the things that you can do to kind of reverse this or reset your taste buds is to go under a little bit of a detox. It doesn't take very long, 3 to 7 days, where you reverse the damage you've already done, where you've been eating a lot of salt from processed foods or consuming a lot of sugar. And this allows you now to open up yourself to eating a lot more healthy. And so you can look up on Pinterest, Google, a lot of different places, some really cool recipes that you can use that are low in salt and low in sugar, as well as some natural teas that can help you reset your taste buds and to get back to the way you should already be. So there are 4 things that I'm going to be talking about this evening that we are indulging in heavily, even as vegans and reformers here at church, that you should have already eliminated, or we should have already completely eliminated, or we should be eating sparingly. The first one is sugar. And we've talked a lot about sugar here at church, but I think one of the main problems is that we don't realize that sugar is found in almost everything. So we shouldn't be consuming a lot of added sugar. The reason why sugar is such a hidden killer is because it is found in a lot of packaged foods. So when you go out and you buy something, there's already sugar hidden in that. But then we go into our cupboards or into our fridge and we add sugar to food. So you're preparing cereals or you're mixing juices or what have you, you're drinking the healthy Pine Hill Dairy juices and they're already full of sugar. So what you want to do, what is a quick fix, is that you can go ahead and start reading your labels, see what already has sugar hidden in them, and start preparing a lot of things from scratch. So these are some of the things that sugar can be found in. So our good old pasta sauces that say all natural on the front, so all natural tomato spaghetti sauce, those are full of sugar. You can make your own. You have things like even the vegetarian mayonnaise and vegetarian sauces, those have a lot of sodium and sugar in them. And then the sport drinks that we send our children to school with to replenish electrolytes, full of sugar, and a ton of different things that if you read the packaging before you consume them, you see that, yeah, they're not that good. You want to start eliminating them from your diet. So these are some examples of the foods that we love to eat that are full of sugar. The sweet potato and the fruits, those are okay sparingly, but sweets and fruit juices especially, because we still love to buy, Pine Hill dairy juices, even the Ceres juices that we like to call healthier. All those juices that we're buying in packages inside of the supermarkets, they're so full. Breakfast cereals that we love to eat, the corn flakes, even the ones with all the healthy nuts in them, a lot of added sugar is hidden inside of these foods. The second thing is salt. Again, we've talked about salt before. So maybe now you may be watching how you're adding salt to your food. You may not add salt to, let's say you're cooking soup or pasta or whatever it is that you're cooking. You may be watching the amount of salt that you're adding from your cupboard. But what you're not realizing is that the raw pasta, even if it's your quinoa pasta or whatever, already has salt added to it. So you want to start looking at the processed foods that you're buying. So the foods that you are going into Cosselas or Massy or wherever you shop and buying in a package, they already have added sodium to preserve them, to keep them. I don't know if it's just me, but if you buy a loaf of bread these days, they don't spoil. And that's because they have so many things added to them already to make sure that they're preserved. So you want to make sure that you're reducing the amount of processed foods, the amount of foods that you are driving through and buying, because they have a lot of added sodium. So again, these are some of the examples of hidden sources of salt that you can find. So your trusty margarine that's in your fridge, the Campbell's soups, any canned food is very high in salt. The seasonings that you like to add to your food to make your food taste really good, all these things have a lot of salt in them, and we want to start taking those out and then going into the supermarkets and looking for the salt-free versions like Mrs. Dash or any of our McCormick's. They have a lot of salt-free versions of our favorite types of all-purpose seasonings. So you want to start looking for those kinds of things. Now the next one is dairy, and this should not really be a topic, but it is, and it's because we still love dairy. We still love ice cream and cake and all these things that have a lot of dairy in them. And so it was told to me that this needed to be talked about this evening, so I decided I'm going to dedicate a good chunk of this to talking about dairy, because we still don't realize just how detrimental dairy can be to us. And a lot of parents still think that their children need to drink milk every day in order to grow those strong, healthy teeth and bones. Well, these are just some of the dairy products that you can find: cheese, yogurt, milk, ice cream. But here's the thing. A lot of the cows that you see on dairy farms that produce the milk that we consume in yogurt or in even ice cream, even though they go through a lot of processing, these cows have something called mastitis, which produces pus. And pus is inflammation, right? And we hear a lot about inflammation and how bad it is and how we need to get it out of our bodies. But when we are consuming things that contain dairy, we are adding that inflammation into our bodies willingly. So dairy, not good. A study has even shown that 1 glass, so 8 ounces of milk, contains about 90 to 135 million somatic pus cells. That's a lot. So pretty much a glass of milk is a glass of pus, and you really want to stay away from that. Contrary to popular belief, dairy and cow's milk is actually not a good source of calcium. It's quite... Oh, so Auntie Flo wanted me to repeat that when you are drinking a glass of milk, it's not merely milk you're drinking, it's a glass of, well, pus. 90 to 135 million pascals. So, contrary to popular belief, dairy and cow's milk is not a good source of calcium. When I was raising my daughter overseas, the doctors told me all the time she needs to drink milk, she needs to drink milk. If not, her teeth won't be strong, her bones won't be strong. She's never had a glass of milk, to my knowledge, and she seems pretty strong to me, right? The thing is that dairy is actually not that good a source of calcium for human beings. It was not created for us to consume as humans. It's actually the opposite. There are tons of studies. If you go online, you can see that there are lots of studies that show that it's actually directly related to osteoporosis and, in extension, animal protein. So, if you're eating any kind of animal protein and, of course, dairy, it's directly related to osteoporosis. And you can see the difference between a healthy bone and a bone that's not so healthy because the calcium is being depleted from the bone. So a lot of people ask me, so when you were raising your daughter, or when you were pregnant, or if I'm not drinking milk, what do I eat? And these are all plant-based sources of calcium. So you have almonds, you have asparagus, you have things like molasses, you have Brazil nuts, bok choy, chickpeas. All these things are really good sources of calcium, and they're all plant-based. And you can even see some very cheap options here, just in case someone's saying, oh, I can't afford it. Believe it or not, oranges contain calcium, and so does broccoli. So eating a wide variety of plants in your diet will give you the necessary nutrients, the calcium, everything that you need without having to dip into the animal pond. So it's really, really, really important. Now, continue with the dairy. So it also contains growth hormones, and these hormones have been linked to cancer and obesity. So there are a lot of people, especially online, who get talked about a lot because they're eating healthy, they're vegetarians, but then they get really sick and people are wondering what's going on, and it's because they still eat a diet that's very, very rich in dairy. And one of the things that really turned me off from dairy was the amount of blood that you can find inside of 1 glass of milk. It's very rich in things like blood and feces because of the way that the cows are treated and the way that they get the milk from these cows. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is dairy equals really bad. So when you are eating your cheese and your ice cream, it looks really good because they process it. They add a lot of things to make it smell better and look better. But at the end of the day, if you took these things and you tested them, they're still very high in all of these contaminants. The reason why a lot of adults still consume milk is because every single day as a child, they were drinking milk, and it contains a very addictive morphine-like substance, so they can't really stop, right? So you want to make sure that you're not giving your children the dairy products. You want to make sure that you are not eating dairy products because the things found inside of dairy, they're very detrimental to your health, and they're linked to a lot of the diseases that are becoming more rampant in our society today. Now, there is some good news. So there are a ton of alternatives that you can use as a vegan that you can replace your dairy products with. Now, some of our older health magazines are some of our best health magazines when it comes to recipes. There are a lot of very good recipes inside of these health magazines. Cashew cheeses, homemade nut milk. There are a lot of really good recipes. If you can dig some up, it would be really great. If you can't, I am going to make a guide or a booklet with some recipes that will take you less than an hour to make. I don't like being in the kitchen long, so most of my recipes are very easy, and I'm going to keep them very budget friendly as well, because again, I know a lot of my people tell me, well, eating vegan is expensive, so we're going to keep it budget friendly, we're going to keep it time friendly, and we're going to make sure that it tastes good. So if you would like one, you can see Sister Flo or myself, and those will be available probably tomorrow or Sunday. So some of the options that you have for dairy elements in your cooking. So the first ones are milks. So milk is a big part of a lot of recipes. And believe it or not, you can take almost any nut and convert it into a milk. Some of my favorite milks are coconut milk, cashew milk, hazelnut milk. My mother likes almond milk, but there's some really cool recipes online that you can look into and you can start using right away. It does not take long. So 3 of the ones that are featured here, I tried to look for some that were pretty. So you have one that represents the vanilla milk that we would see on our shelves in the supermarket, so the golden cashew. So you can buy some cashews, you can make this cashew milk, and it takes under an hour to make. There's the cocoa hazelnut. So you use dates, honey, or maple syrup to sweeten this one, but you use the dark chocolate nibs to create a chocolate-like type milk. My daughter drinks it. It actually tastes really good. And then there's maple pecan, and I don't like pecans really, but Auntie Flo will probably try that one first. And it tastes like, people say it tastes really sweet because you don't need to add a lot of sweetener to it. So you can choose whichever nut you like the best. You can try coconut if you aren't a big fan of nuts, but there are a lot of options for milk. You can even buy some relatively good milks right now for under $20 if you aren't a fan of cooking. But either way, you want to start replacing the milk in your diet with good quality nut milks that are available. Then there are vegan cheeses. So these are all vegan, and these can all be prepared at home. So you can have the sliced cheese, or you can have the blocks of cheese that you can make. And you can choose which ones you want to create as well. So if you feel like cashews are too expensive, then you can create an almond cheese, or you can create a soy cheese, you can create cheeses from tofu. You have a lot of options. So these are just a small example of the types of cheeses that you can make, and you can add anything to them, and you can rest really well knowing that you've saved the life of a baby calf. So you don't have to worry about any other additions instead of the milk, because you know what you've put into it. You made it from scratch, right? So vegan cheeses, vegan milk, vegan butters. Butter, you don't really need it, but I know some people like to cook with it. You can also make this from scratch, and there will be a recipe inside of the little handout that I'll create, so you can check it out when you get it. And this is yogurt, ice cream. We all love our yogurts and ice cream. Again, you can make them from scratch. You can include your berries, so you're getting the additional nutrients that you need in your diet. And the ice cream, you can monitor how much sugar, salt, and fat you're adding to it, so it's really healthy, and you know what you're consuming when you're eating it. And then the final thing that I'll be talking about today is flour, because we all love flour, especially us Bajans. We like to eat a piece of cake or sweet bread or something after we eat our main meal. Well, flour is actually not that good, and I think we all know this, but it's still kind of tough to pull back from it. So some options are, you can buy some healthy breads, and Massey actually sells a very good variety of sprouted grain breads, or you can make your own sprouted grain bread, and I'm including a recipe that I've tried. It's not that hard, and it's really not that expensive either, that you can make your own sprouted grain bread from. So you have options, and then I'm sure you know that Auntie Flo makes her cookies, and she includes all the nuts, all the grains, all that good stuff. So you want to make sure that when you're shopping, again, you're reading and you're seeing what's included inside of the bread, what's included inside of the cakes, inside of the cookies that you're consuming, and you want to monitor how much fat they're adding, how much sodium they're adding, how much sugar they're adding, so that you aren't going over your limit every single day for these different elements in your food. So instead of using white and whole wheat flour, I know growing up we heard eat whole wheat bread. Whole wheat bread really isn't that good. You want to try substituting more of those white and whole wheat flours with whole grains. So this is just a quick cheat sheet that shows you the different whole grains that you can use instead. So you can buy quinoa flour, there's brown rice flour, there's millet flour. There are a lot of different flours that you can use instead and substitute, so that you can rest assured that you aren't stopping your colon up with the empty calories of the white flour. So this is just an example of what you can use instead of these flours, how much you would need to use instead of the normal flours that you would use when you're baking your breads and your cakes. and these are much healthier and they're much more nutrient dense. Another example of how you can remove excess flour from your diet is by replacing your pasta with vegetables. So one example is when you're cooking your lasagna, instead of using the flat pasta, you can use sheets of zucchini or green squash. You can create spirals of carrots, beets, sweet potato. You can use quinoa pasta or just replace the pasta with quinoa or brown rice and top it with your sauce. And instead of snacking on a bag of chips or something sweet, you can use you can make your own kale chips or vegetable chips, and you can replace it with snacks like apples, pears, grapes, and you also want to focus on your local fruits because, like Auntie Flo will tell you, it's really important for you to look around you and see what's growing on the trees because they're there for a reason. They're there to protect you from what's already going on here on our island or on your island in St. Lucia, Trinidad. You want to see what's growing there and incorporate those as much as possible into your diet. So I'm not saying that you need to eliminate all the foods, although you probably might need to, but it's really important that you start substituting them. So instead of grabbing a Pine Hill dairy juice or instead of grabbing a fruity or a soft drink, you want to start looking at, the infused waters, just adding some fruit for some flavor or just drinking it straight. I think Carissa was making some at camp already, so you can go downstairs, see what it looks like, taste it, see if you like it. Maybe you might want to add some mint, some raspberries, some blueberries, some other local fruits. But there are some options to making it an easier transition instead of just going cold turkey and then hopping right back on the bandwagon. You want to gradually do it and substitute instead of just cutting stuff off. Now this is what our plates normally look like. They're very brown and beige and not very pretty, and this is what you want to stay away from. Instead, you want to have a colorful plate because the more colorful means that you're touching a lot more of the food group, so you're getting a lot more nutrients in your diet. So instead of picking up a lot of potatoes and yams and the rice and carbohydrates when you're shopping, you want to see if you can spend a little bit more time instead of the fresh food area and pick up some more green leafy vegetables, some more of the colorful vegetables that are available. And again, they don't have to be the expensive ones. You just want to see if you can get as many colors on your plate every week. So here are some things that you can start implementing. So again, I hear that you don't have a lot of time. I don't either. So one of the things that you can do is on Sundays, instead of watching whatever is going on TV, you can spend an hour or two just preparing your meals for the week. So this doesn't mean cooking everything at once, because I know a lot of people might not like eating the same thing over and over again. But what you can do is you can prepare your vegetables, package them up. You can freeze some of them for use later. You can make your nut loaves, your meatballs, your vegan meatballs, your roast, stuff like that. You can prepare ahead of time so that when you get home from work, all you need to do is put it together, and in 15 minutes you have a well-balanced meal. Or maybe take it to work with you, since you shouldn't be eating that late. But you want to make sure that you prepare ahead of time, because when you prepare, then there's a lower chance of you failing in your brand new endeavor of eating healthy. Another tip that you can start implementing if you find that you don't have a lot of money to spend on the healthier options is moving towards eating less food. So if you eat less, you have to buy less. So if you're eating 1 to 2 times per day, you don't need to buy as much food, and therefore the food won't cost as much. So focusing on eating 2 meals per day, that's really good. And this could look like you waking up, you drink something, then you exercise, and then you have a breakfast of maybe a whole grain cereal and some fruits. And then sometime in the afternoon, you have your main meal, which would be something with some kind of protein. So your loaf that you prepared on Sunday, maybe a carbohydrate source, and lots of green leafy vegetables and vegetables as well. So if you are only eating twice, you only have to buy but so much food. And not only that, now you give yourself enough time to recover after eating that meal. Ideally, you want to wait 4 hours before you go to sleep. You don't want, I know we grew up here in 2 hours, but you want to give yourself enough time so that your stomach gets the chance to sleep when the rest of your body is sleeping. So that was the second tip. And then the last tip is eating less calories, which kind of ties into eating 2 times per day. So if you aren't eating as much calories, you want to focus on making sure that the foods that you are eating are nutrient dense. So foods like whole grains, fruits, not eating as much sugar, as much flour, as much salt, deleting the animal products and the processed foods and the packaged foods that you are buying, and focusing on fiber-rich foods. These will help you eat less calories but not feel hungry. So because they're so nutrient dense and because you're only eating 2 really good meals, you're going to feel very satisfied, you're going to feel very good, and you won't miss the snacks that you were eating in between because those were empty calories anyway. So this is just a diagram showing you where you can get most of your nutrients. So you have your leafy greens, you have your fruits and vegetables, the sprouts and legumes, nuts and seeds, you have your cold pressed oils. So these are just a diagrammatic explanation of what it should look like when you put it on your plate. Again, leafy greens and vegetables, they aren't that expensive. Lettuce, spinach, kale, you can pile that on the bottom of your plate and then start building from there. And the more expensive things, they go to the top. You can't really balance them at the top, just a little bit, so you'll be able to afford it. How do vegans get enough protein? So I get asked this all the time, especially in the gym, because people don't understand how vegans who don't eat meat get protein. And I tell them all the time, I get it from the same place that your protein gets it from. So here are some examples of 12 healthy vegan proteins that you can consume. My personal favorites are quinoa, black beans, and hemp seeds. Hemp seeds, in my opinion, taste really good. I just put them on top of steel-cut oats every morning, and they taste really good, in my opinion. But you can try chia seeds if you aren't a big fan, and you can mix up the beans and the peas. So if you don't like black beans, then you can try chickpeas or lentils or black-eyed peas, soybeans, that kind of stuff. And then you also have almonds, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, brown rice, leafy greens, and spirulina. So all of these are plant-based sources of protein that you can easily consume, so you don't have to worry about being in a protein deficit at the end of the day. So to end it all off, there are 3 key takeaways that I want you to walk away with. Number 1, vegan food can taste really good. It can also be affordable, and it does not have to take forever to create. When you're eating foods, you want to make sure that the foods that you're eating are nutrient dense. And then number 3, you want to eat less, but you want to eat more high quality foods. So 2 meals per day that are colorful instead of our traditional gray or beige plates. And again, if you would like those recipes, you can ask me or Annie Flo tomorrow or on Sunday. Thank you.
Good evening, church. My job is just to share 1 or 2 recipes with you guys. As Kelly just said, some of us use mayonnaise, but we buy it from the store. And when we read the labels, it has egg whites and all these things that we know aren't really very good for us. So a recipe for mayonnaise that I will give Kelly so she could give you guys. You can buy one of the best soy milks. You could make your own, or you could use the Good Hope one, not the one that has the vanilla flavor, the plain one in the blue box that has 0 taste. That one is the one to use. You could use 2 cups of soy milk, a ½ teaspoon of guar gum. You could get that from the health food store. 1 teaspoon of sea salt. You could use about 2 rounded teaspoons of brown sugar, not white sugar, but brown sugar. And you put all those ingredients into a blender. Then you add a little bit of oil. You could use vegetable oil. And then what makes the mayonnaise taste just like the real mayonnaise is you use about 4 tablespoons of Bragg's apple cider vinegar. That gives it the wow factor. You blend it all together, and then you put it in a glass container, not plastic, preferably glass. And you keep it in the fridge, and you could consume it within 4 to 8 weeks. And it lasts that long, and it tastes just like the real mayonnaise that is sold in the supermarkets. The next one is for those of us, or for those of you actually, who like lentil roast or carrot roast and all those, but they're putting peanut butter. Some people are allergic to peanut butter. So instead of using peanut butter, you could use roasted soybeans. They're sold in Barbados from AMR Trading. And you could buy a 2 pounds, 5 pounds, whatever. You take some of those soybeans, you put them in your blender, blend them up, then you put, and to sweeten it, you put agave. If you don't have agave, a little few drops of sugar. And you, if you want to, brown sugar, and you blend it up. When you taste it, it tastes just like peanut butter, but it is not peanut butter. And with that, you could use, we are told to always try to use ground provisions. So we have a recipe here for those who like Edo's or cassava. You could use cassava soya pie, you could call it that, where you could peel the cassava and cook it, or peel the Edo's and cook it. You mash them while they're hot. Then you add the blended roasted soybeans, which is the mixture that you did in the blender. Then you add about 2 pot spoons of the Bragg's amino acid, because that having enough salt, so you don't have to add salt into any of these things, because that already, as Kade says, some of these things already having salt, so we're not adding extra salt into them. And then you put all your fresh seasonings. Don't say fresh. I didn't say bottle seasonings, I say fresh. So you chip your onions, your thyme, your parsley, your chives, your sweet pepper, your celery, all those things. You mix everything together. Then you place it in a greased dish, again, either stainless steel or glass, and you bake it for about an hour. And these things are pretty easy to make. Soya cheese is very easy to make. Again, you can make your soya milk from scratch. The recipe will be given to Kalita, or you could use from her example also, you could use with the soya cheese. You could use the soya cheese in instead of as paste for your bread. You can use cashew cheese as well for those who might be allergic to soya or are told to stay away from soya. And the last one, as a drink, there's a drink called, well, we call it Soy Linko drink. Soy from soya, Linko from linseed. We use the golden linseed that is sold at Jen's, the health food store. You use a pot spoon of that and you put it in water to boil. Now you do not wait until the linseed is boiled and slimy. As soon as it is boiled, you pour it out in a stainless steel bowl and you let it cool. Then you add soy milk, plain soy milk. Then you could add coconut milk. All these things you're making on your own. Coconut milk is very easy to make. And then you add the 2 cups of linseed. You put some agave in it as a sweetener. And you could also, if you want to put vanilla extra or something to give it a little different flavor, you mix them together, you chill it, and you drink it. It tastes very good. So these are just a few examples of some recipes that you can try that doesn't have a lot of salt, a lot of sugar, and they taste healthy and good, and they are not expensive. Thank you.
I have one more person coming with a recipe, and as he's on his way, Testimonies Volume 9 says that old and young should learn how to cook more simply, and that wherever the truth is presented, the people are to be taught how to prepare food in a simple yet appetizing way. That's our aim this afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Reverend. So I'm here to share a simple recipe with you that I guess most men will be able to pick up. So that simple recipe would be a lentils and oatmeal burger. Now there are a few basic ingredients, which is lentils, of course, oats, and for the seasonings we have garlic, onion, and seasoning pepper, which is the main seasoning. However, I like to incorporate other seasonings with it as well. So you're free to do it as well. So we're going to start off by putting the lentils to boil with a little bit of salt and some seasoning. Then after it is done, you're going to add in the oats. Now I don't usually use measurements. However, I would roughly say around 2 cups of lentils and probably 2 cups of oats. And then you add some blended seasonings to it. After you're done, you add in a little flour. Could be whole wheat or whole grain. And then you kind of put it together. And next you could incorporate and make a sauce with it as well. I normally use tomato paste. However, some people like to use ketchup. So with that, you would add some chopped seasoning. You'd add some chopped seasoning and then put the sauce to boil. After you have rounded the burgers, you could grease the Pyrex and put the oats down and then pour the sauce over it. And you could put it in the oven and allow it to bake at low heat so that it could absorb the seasonings. Thank you.
Okay, so we already have people who not only look at these things, but they are doing them. And we wanted to share some of these things with you because it's an integral part of our message. And we are even told in another quotation that when we eat like this, it will commend itself, this type of eating, to unbelievers. Sometimes this is the way we can get through to them, by sharing this way of eating with them. And are there any comments, questions, or anything like that? You will have to get near to the mic.
Good afternoon. Right, I heard Khalifa mention chocolate something, but I think we were told some time back that we should avoid the chocolate for various reasons. Dark chocolate. Could you substitute caramel for the chocolate? Not
I'm
here.
being told yes.
Oh yeah. Oh, she's relaying it through you. Okay. In terms of shortening, what was the word on shortening? Our shortening, yeah. Normally, in the old days, I know that shortening used to be lard, which was pig fat. What kind of shortening is being used these days? Pardon? Crystal? Vegetable? I'm just checking on because we have bakers in our midst, so I want to know what kind of shortening is being used.
Well, I don't know what they use, but I think Kelita mentioned some way of making that there'll be a recipe too in terms of making our own butter that will be much healthier.
Okay.
And she also kept saying that we need to start learning to make our own bread so we won't have to depend on other bakers as well.
Okay. Agave or agave is agave? Agave? Yeah. What's the word on that?
Agave,
Yeah. What kind of sweetener is
answer
that? Is that a safe sweetener?
Yes, good evening, church. Agave is a low glycemic index and a low glycemic load sweetener. It's about twice as sweet as sugar. And I'll tell you what low glycemic index and low glycemic load is. Low glycemic index means that when it gets down to your pancreas, the load is shortened and shortened and decreased in terms of when the pancreas produces the particular whatever so that the bile duct can give its bile so that the insulin in your bloodstream can produce the sugar itself. So agave, the origin of agave is actually in Mexico. It's found in Mexico. It's here. It looks like the aloe plant, actually, and it's very, very good. There's blue agave. There's the regular green agave found here, but the blue agave is found in Mexico. And agave is as I would have mentioned, is about as twice as sweet as sugar. So which means that 1 tablespoon of agave equals to half a tablespoon of sugar, or half a tablespoon of sugar equals to 1 tablespoon of agave. And finally, agave, you can get agave from PriceSmart. It's relatively expensive from PriceSmart, but there are cheaper versions in Jen's Health and the different health food stores in Robert's Jen's Health and the others.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Right. And Sharon mentioned AMR trading. I think that is in the Bell in St. Michael. Right. And for Shergan, can anybody testify to the taste of these burgers?
I'm seeing some hands in the back.
Will we be able, before this camp is over, to testify to the taste of these burgers?
Well, I'm pretty sure if he's given the opportunity. So, Shergan, it seems as though you have a job up ahead in the not too distant future. Okay. So remember, okay. Okay, so I guess that's it for comments and questions. So I'll just end here by reading yet another quotation. And remember, we are in serious times. And when we hear that in the end time, the group, the 144,000, they will not be getting ill. Jesus himself did not get ill while on earth. And I don't think, in fact, I know God is not arbitrary. And there are quotations here that also indicated that God wants to get us back to that diet in Eden. And it seems then as though, since we are also told the body and the mind, there's a close relation between the body and the mind, we must see it absolutely necessary to take better care of our bodies. So I'll just end here with this one that says, which is it? In order to render to God perfect service, you must have clear conceptions of his requirements. You should use the most simple food prepared in the most simple manner, that the fine nerves of the brain be not weakened, benumbed, or paralyzed, making it impossible for you to discern sacred things and to value the atonement. Same thing we are doing this week. The cleansing blood of Christ as of priceless worth. Maybe the reason we are not valuing these things as much as we ought is because something may be wrong with our diets. So I want us all to really look at our own diets and see what we can do about changing them so we will better reflect the end-time people lifestyle that God wants us to. Is Sister Curdell there? You have your song ready? After your song, we'll pray and finish.
Good afternoon. We're pilgrims on a journey of a narrow road, and those who's gone before us line their way, cheering on the faithful, encouraging the weary, to the life-sustaining testament to God's sustaining grace. Surrounded by so great of clouds of witnesses, let us run the race, not only for the prize, but ask those who's gone before us to leave to those behind us the heritage of faithfulness passed on through godly lives. And so may all who've come behind us find us faithful. May the fire of our devotion light their way, and may the footprint that we leave lead them to believe, and the life we live inspire them to obey. Oh, may all who've come behind us find us faithful. After all, our hopes and dreams has come and gone, and our children, they're so lonely, so confused. May the things that they discover and the memories they uncover should lead us to the road we each must find. And so may all who've come behind us find and behind us, find us faithful.
Okay, let us kneel for prayer. Father which art in heaven, we are extremely grateful for the knowledge that you've given to us in these last days concerning foods and our health, and of the higher calling of wanting to take care of our bodies, because you've told us in the word that whether therefore we eat or drink or whatever we do, all must be to your glory. Please forgive us for treating our bodies in an ungrateful way to you, in a careless manner, by the things we put into our mouths. Show us, convict us by your Holy Spirit of those areas each of us need to change. Christ has promised the power to change in those areas. And may we be willing not to please self, not to please our tongues and our tastes, but may we be willing to so eat and drink that you can then add your blessing by giving us the health and strength to be the right kind of exhibits, the right kind of witnesses, full witnesses of what you can do in us when we surrender to and obey your word. So into your hands we commit us all this evening. We commit this aspect of our lives. We commit our spiritual experience, relationships with you, that we want to come to a higher level and to use this physical aspect to add to that. So we commit us all to you this evening. Continue to bless this camp, beat back the forces of evil, and prepare us for the message tonight. Protect your people from evil. And may Christ alone be lifted up as we continue to fellowship with each other. For Jesus' sake, amen.